Hey everyone, Dave with the Spillproof podcast. Just want to let you know we are still going to be posting our podcast episodes up on our YouTube channel, but we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. Instead of putting the full episode on there, what we're going to do is put small snippets of it, maybe some of the highlights, things like that. And then if you like what you heard, you can check us out where our podcast can be found. So right now, our podcast can be found at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. So if you like what you heard, check us out, Spillproof Podcast. You can write to us at spillproofpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear your feedback or throw some stuff in the comments. Thanks, and thanks for listening.
So I remember that night, I didn't really sleep well. It was but the morphine definitely took the edge off, and I was able to relax more. What do you remember?
You got some spurts of sleep,
yes.
But you generally didn't sleep.
Yeah. What about you? Do you remember sleeping a ton?
I think that I slept a little bit, maybe an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
But generally we were both up because I was rubbing your back.
Yeah, it was almost out of exhaustion. I would fall asleep for 2 minutes, and then the contraction would come, and I would be like, Dave, help me.
The morphine never worked fully. Not the way that they said it was going to.
Yeah, it took the edge off for sure, and I remember
they were
feeling great.
With the morphine, you're gonna be able to get some sleep, and that was not the case.
Yeah, I definitely would wake up every time I had a contraction, but it was weird because I would fall asleep in between the contractions.
Because you were just so exhausted.
Yeah. So then that morning, they came in to check my progress. And I think I was maybe 1 centimeter.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah. They were still not good. Again, we see you're having full contractions.
And at this point, we didn't have a huge birth plan. We didn't have a whole lot of things laid out.
Mm-hmm.
But we were shooting for a natural birth at this point.
Yeah.
So it's important to put that out there.
And our birth, I remember talking with you beforehand, our birth plan was to follow what the doctors told us.
Yeah.
That was our birth plan.
Our birth plan was go to the hospital and have a healthy baby.
Yeah. And that every time they came in, I was like, so what's your recommendation as the OB? That's how they were like, okay, so what do you want to do? And I was like, what's your recommendation? I'm in pain and not thinking straight. I need you to help me out here. But yeah, it was still 1 centimeter.
Which was good because at this point, because the day rolled over, it actually was a good thing because your OB was actually on call.
Yeah, that's right. So my actual doctor was the doctor on call at the hospital. So I had him for this whole day, which was awesome because it was just nice to have that familiar face there and someone who you're already comfortable asking questions to. And
it takes some of the uneasiness away.
Yeah. So at that point, they started to talk to us about options for inducing or getting me to dilate more, because throughout the night too, Owen's heart rate would decrease a little and then be fine.
They'd rotate you to get in a better
they would
position.
be like, hey, sleep on your right side this time, sleep on your left side,
because
sleep on your back.
Supposedly on your back it was supposed to be bad.
Yeah.
For some reation it
Owen
actually
loved it.
It was good.
Yeah.
And there was a reason for that, but
also when you're contracting, I didn't at least want to be on my back. I wanted to be in some sort of crouched over Gollum position.
Yes.
So yeah, they started to talk to us about options for inducing. They talked about Pitocin.
Yep.
They talked about inflating a ball up there or a balloon up there.
Yep.
And again, I ended that those were our first two options, and I ended it with what's your recommendation? And they said the Pitocin.
Well, they actually did both.
They did the balloon thing?
They did the balloon thing too.
I don't remember that.
So they did the balloon thing first because they explained the Pitocin side effects and risks. And we said, well, why don't we try the balloon, because that has a less the side effects. It's less aggressive. So because the Pitocin had some fairly good side effects because it could get to the baby.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah, so we had done the balloon,
I have zero recollection of the balloon.
It didn't work.
Okay, maybe that's why
And
I
then
don't
we
really
went to the
have.
Pitocin.
Okay.
So we actually did both.
Oh, all right. So we did both.
We did do both.
We did it all.
Because they showed the little ball pump thing that they use.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it didn't work because
No, it didn't work.
I don't remember it at all.
Well, you were in between contractions, so it was.
Yeah,
It was
I was
in
just
one
trying to
ear,
get
out
through it.
the
And I
other.
will say, especially during like this day, which was January 29th, we had two nurses. So it was, and they were both phenomenal. And the reason why there was two was because the second one, it was like her last day as
Like a
like
trainee.
shadowing or training, and she was
Yeah.
like, tomorrow I'm literally on my own. And so it was kind of nice because she was basically like fully trained. It was just her last day of shadowing and like being paired up with another nurse. So we had two and they were awesome.
Both of them were. And sometimes it's hard with training hospitals, but the experience was fantastic. And they were both awesome, and they set your mind at ease, my mind at ease. And honestly, I think because she was going to be like full-fledged, she stuck by us like really, really closely the whole way through.
Yeah.
And she checked in
A
lot and monitored because the heart rate was an issue all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice because they kept things light, as light as they could, but also like kept us super informed. So like she would come in, the one nurse that was like, it was her last day as like partnering up, and the next day she was on her own. But she would come in and be like, okay, here's what I'm doing, and explain everything to us and be like, I'm watching the monitor right now. He's dipping. Okay, his heart rate's dipping. Okay, move to your side. Okay, now I see it going up. So it was nice because for us, that made us like feel really good. Yeah, like not good because obviously his heart rate was dipping, but like
it made us feel more secure.
Yeah, that we were like, okay, she's telling us everything that's going on
because you have the monitors, everything's hooked up, but you have no idea what's going on. And the alarms that happen, like I think I ended up Googling like how to read the heart rate machine just so I could like tell what was happening.
Yeah. But then she would come in and like go through everything she was looking at and like as what she was seeing, what she was hearing. And so that was really nice because like obviously we were anxious about that. Like whenever his heart rate would dip, we would get really anxious. And so she would walk us through that, which was really, really nice.
Yeah. That was overall just a really good experience.
And then we did the Pitocin.
Yep.
And that sucked.
They had to do that in the spine?
No, that was the
in
epidural. Spoiler, I get an epidural. But the Pitocin, I think it was just through the IV. And it just makes like it tries to like speed up.
It makes the contractions worse.
Worse, yeah. To like get you more dilated.
Meanwhile, you've had 3 bags of fluid by now? 4?
I don't know. There were so many bags of fluid. I was so swollen. I don't know because they tried so many like things to get me to dilate more that it was just like, okay, we're going to put another bag of saline through and then we're going to push this through. Yeah. I can't remember what came with the Pitocin, like how much, but overall it was just a lot of fluid. And the Pitocin sucked bad because it just made my contractions that much more intense. And there was like some crazy, like, and we knew going in, like, I'm going to get an epidural at some point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to have like a 100% natural birth. That's not, I wasn't striving for that. But I had a crazy moment where when like the Pitocin kicked in, I was like, well, if this speeds it up, maybe I can do this naturally.
I remember you saying something about the contractions early on being like, they're not that bad.
Yeah. And then
and then they got worse.
It was so, I do
got a
remember
little
saying
cocky.
that was here sitting literally where we are, like right now on our couch in our family room. so naive of me
Yeah.
when they were like 8 minutes apart, and I was like, they're not that bad. um, so yeah, but I had a crazy moment where I was like, I can do this naturally, and then the Pitocin kicked in, and I was like, F this. But we did like for a couple hours, like ride it through.
Uh-huh.
Because I remember, I don't know if a nurse told us this or a coworker had told me this, but for some reason I had it in my head that like the longer you wait to get, like once you get the epidural, the Pitocin doesn't help as much to dilate you. I don't know if that's true or if it's just like a random fact I had in my head, but I felt like I had to go as long as humanly possible without an epidural so that way I could progress with dilation as much as possible.
I don't remember
I
any
don't
of
know.
that. But
It could just be a random
around
thing
that
I got in
time,
my
they
head.
did the epidural.
It was a couple hours of Pitocin.
Right. But after the Pitocin, you got the epidural. And apparently the epidural, so it does go into the spine, but it can go like, it doesn't go like straight in. It always kind of veers from one side to the other. And it still works, but what it does is it happens to numb one side more than the other.
Yeah. And like I was rolling a lot because they would be like, go to this side, go to that side.
And when you got the epidural, they had to actually physically roll you because you couldn't move your legs.
Guys, let me tell you, epidurals are the bomb. I remember the anesthesiologist coming in who was going to give me the epidural, and she would like put me in the position and then said that I needed to be in like to get the shot in my spine. And then like I started to have a contraction and I said, I can't do this. So like something like I can't do this. It hurts so bad. And like I'm holding Dave's hands. And I remember her saying like, well, I'm trying to make this go away. I don't like, that's what I heard. I'm sure she didn't actually say that, but I remember just being like annoyed, like super annoyed because I was in the middle of a contraction and it just like blurted out of my mouth. But also like I didn't move a millimeter until she was done because I was like, I'll show you that I can do this.
I don't remember any of that.
I don't know. She probably said like, she probably was like, it's okay. That's why you're getting this, to make it go away. And I heard it with like a very aggressive tone and was like, I'll show you. So I remember being like, don't move a muscle when she does this.
Everything was very intense at this point.
Yeah.
Because everything was progressing, but it wasn't progressing the way that it should.
Yeah. Like by the time when I got my epidural, I was still only 4 centimeters.
Yeah.
Like I was not dilated very far along.
And this was what, now like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon?
No, this was like noon.
Okay.
Yeah, noon. Because we had Owen around 3:41.
Right.
Around 3:41.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Within a couple of seconds.
Yeah, but the epidural, I remember saying to one of the nurses, I was like, whoa.
It made it so much easier. Because like I remember them saying like, you're having a contraction right now, and you're like, I am?
Yeah, like I was like, no, you're lying. Because I remember asking them, am I even having contractions still?
Right.
I thought it had stopped labor completely. And they're like, no, you're having a huge one right now. But I was like, okay, like I can totally deal with this.
And eventually, as they got worse, you were starting to feel them a little bit, but it wasn't anything near without the epidural.
Yeah. So basically the next like 3 hours were
just the same stuff.
The same. Yeah, it was crazy contractions. And like, I remember my right hip was horrible and Dave would just like knead my right hip.
Yeah.
I would lay on my side and he would knead it.
It was a lot of contractions, rolling around, heart rate dropping.
A nurse or a doctor running in.
Yep.
Saying his heart rate dropped, but okay, we got it back to normal because they changed my position. And almost every time, not every time, but like every time my doctor would come in, I would say, okay, so am I going to have a C-section?
Yeah.
Because in our birthing class,
they never at that point were like, yes, it's going to be.
No, every time it was like, no, like we're not there yet. Yeah. We're going to try everything possible. But we're not going to put you and your baby at risk, but the goal is to have a natural birth.
And Owen was a textbook birth. And by that, I mean, it was literally every scenario in the textbook we did.
Yeah, so every step leading up to a C-section is what happened.
Yeah.
We would joke that this will probably happen next because
we remembered it in our birthing class.
Yeah, we remembered it in the birthing class. So at one point they broke my water because my water still hadn't broken.
Yep.
And then filled me back up with fluid.
Yep.
To see if that would help his heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
They put an electrode in his head.
Yep. They put this little thing that spirals in, kind of like a spring to a pen, and the top of it goes into the top of the head.
So that way they could monitor his heart rate better.
Yep.
Yeah, and every time they came in, I was like, should we just do a C-section? Mm-hmm. So just for some background, and I may have said this before on our podcast, but my mom had 3 C-sections. Mm-hmm. My sister had 2 C-sections. And so I was like, there's a 50-50 shot that I'm probably just going to have a C-section.
Thanks for listening to the snippet of this episode. Full episodes can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. As always, we love feedback. Throw it in the comments or write to us at spillproofpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.